New for 2024, something we've all been waiting for, the Detroit Jazz Festival Vintage Store, where you can buy original Detroit Jazz Festival posters, over 44 years of jazz history, only available from the source, DetroitJazzFest.org. Simply go to the website and click on Buy Vintage Posters. Something we've all been waiting for 44 years. DetroitJazzFest.org.
Hello, Chris Collins here, President and Artistic Director of the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation. Welcome to this special edition of the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation's JazzChat Live, our monthly program that features panel discussions and artist interviews with some of the leading jazz artists in the world.
Tonight's very special guest, Grammy Award-winning drummer, composer, and bandleader supreme, Brian Blade. You can join this live conversation by using the Zoom chat feature. Simply click the chat button at the bottom of the Zoom window, type your question, and hit send. For more information on this or any Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation events, simply visit our website at DetroitJazzFest.org. Now, let's get to the cats. This is Jazz Chat Live from the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation, 2024, end of the year, an exciting year, and no better way to review it than with our very special guest. He was our 2024 artist in residence for the Detroit Jazz Festival, and I can't tell you how much it means to me and so many in our Jazz Festival family that he's able to join us in the midst of an incredibly busy schedule and give of himself and his thoughts with us today. So Brian Blade, welcome to Jazz Chat Live.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Thanks for, arranging this end of the year recap.
Yes, very, very much that. I will say, I probably said this at the beginning of every question about Brian Blade this year, and that is, rarely in my life have I met someone, especially someone in the industry that is as multifaceted and as busy. We're all busy, but I mean, you look at your schedule, I look at your discography and the years you've been active. It's just unbelievable. And many of us, I first heard you with Josh Redman way back when, but Chick Corea, Wayne Shorter, to Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan. I mean, you're out there doing so many things, and I always say, I cannot believe what a generous, thoughtful, calm, wise, wisdom projecting individual you are. I know. It sounds like I'm doing that, but I really want to express to everyone, it's so much of what I perceive in an artist's music, very often encounter with them personally, and it was my first extended exposure to you beyond some of our mutual friends. And boy, you embrace as a person everything I hear in your music. It is one and the same.
Oh man, well, that's such a deep and just heartfelt respect for you saying that, man. I really appreciate you. Thank you for throwing my name in the hat, as it were, for this, the residency this year at the Detroit Jazz Festival. What an honor and a blessing it was for me and my friends. And it just, I don't know what to say other than I hope we can come back again as guests.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, anytime you want, and it was our honor and pleasure. The Artist in Residence program has been going on for a long time, but it takes a certain kind of artist to be communicative. You engaged with aspiring artists in the community. You worked with professional artists and brought them into the fold in your performances, which we'll talk about a bit. But it was truly a collaborative experience that reflects what an artist in residence should be. It's not just come in and do the gigs. It's come in and be part of our community, and everyone on the team and every patron at the festival felt that closeness. So kudos to you for rising to what that role really is and being a benchmark for others. It was very, very special. You
Oh,
know, to that end, though, I know it seems pedantic to start here because so many interviews do, but you really do have a very, very interesting upbringing in a family that is full of creative spirit in many ways. And I wonder if we could just get some sense of your upbringing. You know, I know that the church had an impact. I know that your family had a strong impact. And I will say, as I mentioned to you before, there's a parallel with that and what I experienced here in Detroit. You know, the gospel element, the church element, the family element is
hmm.
very, very strong here. And I know that had quite a guiding impact on you and an inspiration. Could you talk a little bit about your upbringing and what brought you into a life of creativity?
Yes, well, thank you, man. My mother and father, they were, they are truly champions to me and my brother. My brother Brady Jr. is also a drummer, 5 years older, and they just, my mother Dorothy and my father Brady Sr. They just encouraged us and gave us gave us that latitude,
Mm,
to go out and be involved, in the community, with friends, with school, outside of school, certainly from church, the Zion Baptist Church, where my father's still a pastor. He has been for 63 years.
mm,
So, the music began there for me, which is also just a deep blessing for me, because I was never uh, conflicted about playing music anywhere else. That dive bar, that concert hall, or that alley. It was still this praise and worship that was built into playing music.
mm,
So I'm so thankful for that, that it wasn't optional when I was a kid.
mm,
Like, I'm so thankful that, yes, you're coming with us. Later on, you get older and you leave home, you want to make other choices, you can do that. But now, so I'm glad that my family was like that, and I have this extended uh, church family as well, because of
mm.
it. And they've seen me grow up, and they've seen me play, not just on Wednesdays and Sundays, but throughout the world with other friends that I love and admire. So I think hopefully they sit back and they can be proud to say that,
Mm.
we trusted our sons, and we shared with them what we hoped for, and now they have to make their choices, and hopefully we're trying to make the right ones.
That's a beautiful thing. And by the way, a quick note to our audience: this is live, and you're welcome to ask questions yourself. Use the Zoom chat feature. Hit the button there, chat in your question, and we will get to as many as we can. So take advantage of it. You're part of the conversation, so jump in. You know, I, I've always heard something special in the musicians that have truly started in the church community. I mean, not only in their musical philosophy, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you know, as a musician, having that clear, uncompromised sense that there is something above you. The music is above you. You're serving the music, and there are things above that, and so on and so forth. And it's not just a way of keeping you humble, but it's not it's an organic thing. It's not a fabricated thing that you are serving something higher than you that will continue and others will follow your track. You're a caretaker, you're however you want to put it, but understanding there's something above you. And I always found faith and that experience, especially if you have musical experiences in that way, it
Yeah.
seems to settle in as kind of a philosophy.
Well, man, another, aside from my family, I've had so many great teachers and mentors. Having performed there in Detroit with Wayne Shorter and Chick Corea, having seen from the backstage Kenny Garrett year after year, and one of my heroes who included me in his life very many years ago now. So I just, like you say, speaking of carrying on and passing torches, it's been a heavy couple of years, of letting go and loss, but then also realizing the invaluable lessons, the immeasurable gifts that particularly Wayne and Chick left with me and the world. So, especially at this time of year, that thankfulness and sort of meditating on all of that, it wells up in my spirit in such with joy, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it gives me that fuel for, okay, what's coming, what's ahead in the
Yeah.
days coming. So yeah.
Yeah, the old philosophy I've imparted and has been imparted to me of, when you get somewhere, especially if it's a first step up, um, you have to ingrain a certain sense of confidence with, you belong there. You've achieved
Hmm.
that level, but
Yeah.
the other side of it is, you've earned that place, but the opportunity, especially in today's crazy world, is so special. You talk about mentorship of great artists and coming into their fold, and a balance of, yes, you deserve to be there, but what a miraculous gift it is of what you get back from those experiences, and realizing how special it is, the combination of your preparedness with the opportunity to engage in that way at that level.
Yeah. I certainly, there have been, many times where I questioned, ooh, am I, am I where I should be? Am I giving what's needed in the moment? But I was always given that trust and love from from those men and women who let me in on it. And so hopefully it's also being given back by me to my friends and to whomever might be listening, something else deeper than radom cues and flammadiddles, or hopefully, you know hopefully if something else is being imparted, like when you break it down, okay, maybe, but like something for the soul, and something to give life, so yeah.
Yeah. Y- y- there's so many we could talk about, but I guess because it's quite relevant to Detroit. We were very fortunate to have extensive engagements with you and Wayne Shorter in that particular version of the band. Wayne was so generous, and he came in as a resident artist as well and did some amazingly beautiful things. And um, can you give us all a sense of how that came to be, with the particular band with you and John and Danilo? Where did it start? I mean, it's such a deep uh,
Yeah.
issue and a deep question, but it really was an amazing, for me, a demonstration of mixed generations and what can come from those ideas, and Wayne Shorter's incredible openness to
Yeah.
all the influences. I just would love to know the beginnings, the roots of that.
Well, the more I look at it, and I've written a little something about this somewhere, but I enjoy speaking about it because at this point in life, there's quite a bit back there to to remember. So I do remember being 16, uh, starting to purchase records, listening to the music that my teacher in high school, Dorsey Summerfield Jr., said to I should go listen to. So among some of those records, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, to get to I grabbed that, and then Miles Davis Quintet Live to Plug Nickel. Okay, I'm grabbing that, and Juju. Okay, I'm grabbing those three. I got enough money for those three, and I take them home, and I realize, I mean, okay, of course, Juju. That's Wayne's record, but he's on this Live to Plug Nickel. Miles Davis Quintet. Oh, and he's on this Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. It gets some he like, and I'm listening, and he's already he's already giving me so much. He's already speaking to me, and this obviously 20 or more years before I would actually meet him. Maybe not 20, but uh, more than a decade and a half, and it just, this harbinger, he I was being prepared from just that moment, for the time to come, where he's like, we're backstage, and he's like, let's go make a movie. We're walking up there, and so I don't even know how we came to meet. I think Wayne's ear was always to the ground, perhaps it was through Joni Mitchell, um, uh, perhaps it was through Danilo Perez and John Patitucci, who had already had a relationship with him. And but I just, some things you can't make up, and you can't even. I personally could not have dreamt, that one day, from listening it when I was 16, that I would be then making music with my hero, and so that was 20 years together with Wayne. I do. I feel like I blinked, and my God, what just happened? But it's still growing there. All of the laughter and and
Yes.
time we spent together.
I remember distinctly, it's like 2013 or 14, and you guys came in with Wayne, and it was just one of those nights. It was effervescent. Wayne was, man, he was in a place, man. The whole band was. And I looked around at all these great artists that were standing around listening from backstage, but what I noted was every one of them were off in a dark corner, and they wanted to be left alone by themselves. They were just completely mesmerized by the quartet set. And I think it was that year I had asked Wayne if he would consider being resident. But I remember that performance. It was the right night. It was great outside. The
Yeah.
audience in Detroit was great as always. And man, it was flying high, sound wise, interpretation, interaction. It just felt beautifully free. And so many people still talk about that performance. They remember
Well,
that particular one.
well, man, thankfully for you, just it brings me to this year, because that I remember when Wayne, when he accepted to be the artist in residence, he had he had written quite a few works for orchestra. So the DSO, with the Detroit Jazz Festival, assembled symphonic ensemble, and we had a beautiful rehearsal, and then come day of show, torrential downpour, storm, you know, cancel walking around,
Ah,
outside. And we basically sat in his room and talked, and just laughed about, was a rehearsal great, and said that we couldn't share that moment with everyone. But thankfully this year you were able, due to the Gresham Blade Center, you were able to sort of preempt a move from the outdoors, in that there was some weather coming, and we shifted. And thankfully, Robbie Coltrane's tribute to his mother Alice, that performance could happen there, and then the fellowship band could play. So I'm glad that there was a plan B, thanks to Wayne State University and you, and of course Gretchen. God bless.
yeah, well, that's always the challenge, the beauty of playing in a city,
Right,
outdoors, but at the
right.
same time, there's that issue. I can remember, the patrons should know from that night, some of the saddest people on the planet were the orchestra. they were
Oh,
looking so forward. They stood to the last minute behind stage, hoping something would
I,
change.
I
And we
remember.
did remount the commission Gaia. Wayne was able to bring Gaia. We brought him in later down the road. But yeah, it was a painful situation. But I did talk to Wayne, and of course, he had a very beautiful, interesting spin on the
Yes, as only he, in his inimitable way, could do. You know, he could just see the light through any dark cloud. And it floods the heart. And that's so.
In fact, I remember once we had him in town early in the year, and we put him up at the at a local high-end hotel we always use, and I heard after he had checked in that it was the weekend. It was the first day of Comic-Con in
Woo!
Detroit at that hotel. And I right away I got on the phone. I said, Wayne, man, I just found out Comic Con's going on. Are you cool? He goes, are you kidding me? I can't wait to get down there, man, and check it out and interact with all the cats. It was so beautiful, man.
He was probably sketching down there or something.
That's right. That's right. You know, I just want to remind everyone we're getting a few questions in, and we're going to get to them. And anyone who does would like to be part of this live conversation with the great Brian Blade, please use the Zoom chat feature. Your questions will come to me, and I'm going to wrap them into the conversation. With that in mind, speaking of great performances, we have audience member asked a interesting question. I don't know if it's answerable, but is there a memorable performance in your vast, diverse performances and recordings that stands out as special to you
You mean not only from Detroit, but in general?
in general, anywhere, your
Uh,
entire thing?
uh,
Yeah, it's a big one.
you know, there was there was a period when when I when I started playing with Joni Mitchell, and it really began in the studio with recording a record called Taming the Tiger. But it was just the two of us, and I mean, obviously the engineer at that point. But then we started doing some performances in as just two of us, and I gotta say that it they stand out in my memory in such a deep way because the dance of it and the um, the surreal
Mm.
experience of it, and watching her and listening and dotting i's and crossing t's, as she would say. For me, they you know they stand out.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, she was such a well, she is such a meaningful artist, and
yeah,
she has continued to be creative and vision ahead and bring great musicians around her. And I've often been told by some of the most creative artists in the world that some of their great experiences are in those settings where different worlds are coming together. And we find that certainly Detroit, we know it that some of the artists that participate or are known, I should say, in other genres, they can have almost an angelic effect in the music. Their
yeah.
thought, vision, sensitivity is really is at a peak. And
Yes.
Joni, I've always felt that way about her music.
Oh man, it just continues to echo, and when I revisit, or a lyric or harmony comes up in my mind, it just it's getting deeper and deeper as the years pass.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's a testament to her creativity and gifts and
Indeed.
spirit. It
Very, very
yeah.
special.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. I do want to put in a plug here. I was uh, just going back to your family for a minute. There's something we couldn't do as part of your residency that I had hoped to. We just couldn't put it all in place. But you have a wonderful DVD or Blu-ray, I think it is, on your father that
Oh
gives
yeah.
a real insight into, man, what a powerful pastor he was.
Yeah.
It's an incredible
Still,
film piece.
yeah. Still is. It's still
Still
alive.
going strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
And also the other that and there is a I know there's a track on your on your website, brianblade.com. If you haven't been there, you want to check it out. Uh, Mama Rosa, that project, because I know when I first heard about it, Brian playing guitar and singing. Let's check that out. That it was so oblique to what I knew you for, and man, some beautiful, thoughtful stuff. Again, reflective of you. Can you just tell us about that project? Because people need to know about that project in reference to who you are.
Oh, well, I owe a great debt to another dear friend named Daniel Lanois, who I played with a lot and met when I was in New Orleans back in 1992, roughly, while I was still studying in New Orleans. And we became fast friends. And anyway, being around him and just his, not just his productive mind, but his songwriter mind and soul, and his guitar expression, and sonic expression. It all has had a great impact and touch on my life. So back, well, fast forwarding a few years later, because I'm around him, I started playing guitar, and it connects to my first instrument, violin. I think the more I thought about it, I just all of a sudden oh, okay, this feels like home,
Mm.
and starting to write songs for the fellowship band, really, but out of that one river, these streams, not just fellowship band music, but these songs that had words. And I'm sure that's a lot of Joni's influence there, and my father and Al Green, and all these influences, things that I've listened to. And so the Mama Rosa music, uh, it just it kept flowing, and I didn't, I never I never wanted to stop, any manifestation of what was coming creatively. So I just followed it, and so this body work was born, and there's a lot more songs waiting in the corner. I'm just anxious to get back to them as soon as we finish some more fellowship music that's in process. That's next on my list. So yeah, the Mama Rosa music is dear to me. Initially, it was they were very much memory songs, family songs, like, oh, okay, what's happened so far, what have I seen so far, what means something to me still. But then I think they're still very personal songs, and I think they'll hopefully strike across someone else's life with a familiarity, with a resonance that says, "Oh, yes, I can relate to that." And I guess that's what you hope for in any song,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it touches people. So
That's beautiful. And again, I go back to that thing where there's a reason why it's so interesting listening to you and hearing how you lead an ensemble. I mean, you live a life, you're immersed in this. Music is part of your consciousness, your expressiveness in all its forms. How, as you've expressed, when the flow starts, you embrace that, and it's it's that kind of interesting life that I believe leads to really interesting artists that can take us into new places. And in your case, again, very reflective of of your your thoughtfulness about the whole picture, the big picture, who you are in it, and the people you work with, and the people you're reaching out to. I found that whole project really beautiful and interesting. And as I said, what I was just drawn to it because, man, have you heard Brian sing and play guitar? No, I haven't. Check this out. And oh, geez, check it out, man. It's if people haven't heard it, it's a different side of you, and yet still the same Brian we know. It's a beautiful thing.
oh, thank you for mentioning that music. It's it means a lot to me, and I want to, like I say, assemble that band, the Mount Rose band, hopefully within the next year.
That's interesting, let me know. Let me
Uh,
know.
all
We
right,
can
I
do
will.
something special. Um, this just a reminder to everybody, you can ask questions in this live conversation with Brian Blade. Just use the Zoom text feature, and you can be part of the conversation. We want you to be, so jump on in there. Our 2024 Artist in Residence, Brian Blade, we're talking to, and this aligns with a question that's been asked by one of our audience folks. And you mentioned the fellowship band. I think it's a good time to turn to that. For a couple of reasons. I mean, certainly, they were core and center. In fact, I love the fact that the fellowship band was presented in April at our press conference, and then we opened the festival, and then that music was expounded upon, and the band was the core of your closing night performance with the Jim McNeely great arrangements. Um, the question from the audience is about basically the differences of having an ensemble that is focused and together for a long time and developing towards a common vision, how that evolves, and the difference between that and what we all spend time doing, which is sometimes one offs, sometimes two or three offs, but that's about it, working around and so on and so forth. And the fellowship band, I mean, is it late 90s? Is that when the band started? Am I remembering correctly?
But yeah, but I'm gonna also do a similar thing that I
Take it where
did
you like.
with Wayne. You know, in 1988, I graduated high school, moved to New Orleans to study at Loyola University with one of my heroes, John Bodakovich, John Mahoney, Bill Huntington, Steve Mazikowski. And I met John Coward in 1988, and we became fast friends. We were just playing, mostly just the two of us. The bass players always had gigs, and so we were in the band room. Just John was already composing. He had been in school for at least 2 years before I arrived there. So it's so advanced and amazing. And anyway, we became great friends. So in a way, that is the genesis or beginning of the fellowship band. A
Mm.
decade essentially before everyone else would come into the picture, and we would start making recordings with Myron Walden and Melvin Butler and Chris Thomas. And it's just been a deep trip. It's still unfolding. Um, uh, I always say when I start to think about the fellowship band and how thankfully with opportunities, not a vast amount of touring possibilities, but quite a few beautiful opportunities. Uh, you can't always you can't make people love you. You can't make people stay. But there is. I mean, thank God for this divine intervention that binds hearts together. And I don't know, can't make that up. And I'm just thankful for them and their willingness to step out there again when we can. So
Well, we want to continue on that track for a minute. Plenty of questions here about fellowship, and I have some thoughts too related to your residency that I think were really special moments. But right now, we're just going to take a short break from the conversation. A little message from the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation, which I'm going to do live for lack of great technology and fancy graphics. Um, with a brand new litter of jazz cats, the next generation of jazz stars are ready to light up the scene. We're proud to introduce the Detroit Jazz Festival Foundation's latest initiative, Next Generation Detroit Jazz. This program is all about lifting up these young lions and giving them the spotlight they so richly deserve. To help these talented musicians continue the tradition of jazz in Detroit, we need your support. As we wrap up 2024 and this season of giving, we invite you to consider supporting the next generation of Detroit jazz. Every dollar you donate will go directly to this exciting initiative. And you can hear many of these aspiring artists on our weekly programs, Jazz After Hours and Jazz from the Cellar, Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and also here on Jazz Chat Live, as we'll be speaking to some of the really young cats in our youth program, right up to those who have been through those programs, are in the beginnings of their career, and others that have made incredible journeys already who have began their path in Detroit. So we really do have a lot of love and appreciation. And as any musician knows, it is just as important to mentor and pass on this language and direction and guidance to next generations, so that we leave the world maybe a little better than we found it, or at least add to the positive vibe. And we all have that responsibility. So, with that in mind, visit DetroitJazzFest.org. That's DetroitJazzFest.org/donate. Or there's just a donate button you can click. And indicate Next Gen, NEXTGEN, in the comments section, and your donation will go directly to this program, Next Gen Detroit Jazz. Please make your tax-deductible donation now. Hey, tax-deductible. That's April's right around the corner, folks. This is a great way to give and feel good about it. Know what you're doing by helping young people and providing performance opportunities, mentoring opportunities. And as you know, our summer program, the JC Hurd Jazz Week, we keep completely free for the 40 participants that audition in. No one can pay. No one does pay. Our year-round jazz infusion program at the Detroit Public Schools, along with the myriad of different educational programs we do. We keep it entirely free, just like the largest free jazz festival in the world, the Detroit Jazz Festival. And let me tell you, that's not easy anymore. It's why you don't see it very often. And we do it because we want everybody to not only have access, but to feel welcome, to own this music and know that they're an important part of it. And by breaking down barriers like cost of participation, help with transportation, food, lunches, opportunities to connect them with clubs and international opportunities. Those are all things that come with these free programs for our youth. So consider today, at the end of this year, this glorious moment of giving, going to DetroitJazzFest.org and making a donation to the Next Gen program, and we'll make sure students' lives and aspiring artists' lives are lifted up, and they are availed of all kinds of new opportunities to explore and to present what they do. So be part of it. Thanks for listening. Back now to Brian Blade. We were talking about the fellowship band. I'll phrase this again. I'll combine a question from one of our patrons with my thoughts. One of the most stunning things for me was the first rehearsal when you brought the fellowship band together with the Detroit Jazz Fest Big Band, and we performed these marvelous arrangements by Jim McNeely, who we've all respected for a long time. But the fellowship band has such a special and identifiable personality and texture to it. There are subtleties in the music, and even some complex rhythmic things that, when done well, they come off as groovy. They come off as lyrical. They don't come across as angular or mathematical. They're musical because they come from an organic place. And I was really struck by how well all of that was maintained in this larger ensemble setting. I mean, first, kudos to Jim McNeely for bringing those textures together in such a way that it could be notated, so that a big band of musicians that don't work regularly with you, obviously, could become part of that. And I have to say, Brian, the way you played in a big band setting, to me, was completely one of a kind. The subtlety of what you do brought into that context, and being everything it is when it's the fellowship band and others. Every drummer should pay attention to the kind of tastefulness and interaction and dynamic influence you brought through your style on the drums. that was entirely unique. That combined with your leadership, and as all the musicians in Detroit mentioned, the personality you brought to the rehearsal, from the drums to the bandstand, and the beauty that was projected from it, all told, it results in those special performances that are memorable, that don't disrupt the flow of art or the personality of the core ensemble, but enhance it, and everyone feels like they were part of that. And that was the feeling on Monday, and it was spectacular. Talk a little bit about the language, the evolution of the language of the fellowship band, and some of those personality traits that make it so special.
Well, hey, I guess when you don't know any better, you just got to work with what you got. And so, me coming from that position, the drum chair, the big band, I guess. Well, hats off first to like Mel Lewis, for instance, and Thad Jones. The way the way they took the tradition, Duke Ellington and Count Basie, but then their own inventiveness and expression with that size of a group, to make it have that smallness and intimacy,
Mm,
but then knowing full well that you have the power to and at the ready. And Jim McNeely is what a master
mm,
of that expression, and his arrangements and vision for John's and my music. We were sad that he was not well and not able to be there and conduct all of those arrangements, but he gave me a very short list of 2 or 3 people he recommended to stand in for him, and thankfully the first man on that list, Dennis McCrell, was available and came to lead us and guide us
oh
through
yeah.
vision. So it was an honor, and just having you there at first tenor, and the whole band that was assembled there from Detroit. Everybody gave of themselves in such a way, and that makes it easy when there's the willingness and submission from within a group, and everyone's aware that, okay, I want to give what's needed, to this moment, for the entire arc of what we hope to share. And
Mm.
when that is there, then something truly powerful can happen. Then you can I think, be a part of something much larger than you, and it's fulfilling for everyone, and inspiring. So I always felt that, and with the fellowship band, and then joining forces, as you say, with the big band, it's great because everyone, I think, is very much aware of their individual responsibility,
Mm.
but because of that trust that is shared for all these many years with the fellowship band, uh, it hopefully that transmits itself to everyone else, to giving, yeah, in the moment.
Without a doubt. I mean, you mentioned we work with what we got, and I get that in relation to what I said, but really that's artistry. I mean, I often say, man, if anyone tells you there's one path to this stuff, they're lying to you, man. It's an individual. Life is not long enough for all of us to do check these boxes, and you have to embrace who you are, what you are, what gifts of opportunity and exposure you've had, and they may be widely diverse from even your heroes, and you take that where you will. I hear that the fellowship band embraces that like few others, and the time you've been together has allowed that to coalesce in a way that is immediately reflected. And dare I say, it's one of those ensembles. Around the world, I hear. I hear bands where your influence, the influence of that ensemble, is crystal clear. And I don't say that lightly because we hear all kinds of influences, but man, it's really an entity
Oh,
that I hear inspiring others. It's beautiful,
well,
man.
thank you for that. I mean, I feel like, when I hear the John Coltrane Quartet or Miles
Mm,
Davis Quintet or Ahmad Jamal Trio with Israel Crosby or Vernel Fournier or just there's such an identity and group interplay and power that that has, it continues to speak to me and
mm,
continues to challenge me to strive and hopefully be much more focused and driven to reach the mark. You continue striving. I want to say, you mentioned relative to next generation. Uh, uh, I want to get involved somehow, even if it's just to give. But because April's around the corner, I'm looking back at this past April when the preview for the festival, the announcement for the festival happened. My wife and I arrived in Detroit on the 8th, and there was a solar eclipse. So we're sitting on Woodward Avenue, not far from where the Cadillac stage was erected,
yeah.
and they were saying, it was a very very overheard Detroit moment, and it was, it was like, the sun is, it's I can see, okay, wow, it's happening. So somebody said, yeah, here we go, y'all hold on to your purses. I was like, yeah. Wait, yeah, what up, though? Yeah, it was like, I was like, yeah, that's it. It was priceless. So I don't know. I just, anyway,
Yeah.
that just came around to my memory. So
Yeah, you're in a real city. Jazz is part of this in a big way, but it's a real city. The festival's in the middle of a real city. That
yeah,
eclipse was in the middle of a real city, man.
it was beautiful, man. I feel like, within, just kind of getting ready for what was coming, and it was heavy and special for my family and my friends. And anyway, I just look forward to seeing what's also coming, and anyway.
That's it. And your contribution was so special. To have the fellowship band there for that was a great introduction to the year, if you will, and a real sense of what you were bringing musically, and also really the first ensemble to play on in the finished Gretchen C. Valet Jazz Center, which made it
Oh,
that much. We didn't have all the sound elements, so we had to bring some of that in, but on stage and. John playing the that handpicked Steinway, and the one of the best compliments we got was Danilo, who plays a different brand. After playing, said, "Man, that's the right piano for this place." I thought, "Yeah,
good, good,
we
good,
did it right."
good.
And so that was very special, and would have made Gretchen smile because she wanted that place built for your level of artistry to be able to be at your best to the degree it's possible, acoustically and otherwise, in jazz, showing jazz as the high art form it is, with nothing but the best, and it's continued to evolve that. So that was a special evening all around, and it launched a real sensibility about who you were in your band, and how special that that evening was. So I'm glad you were there, and in fact, you did a marvelous workshop engaging with some of the aspiring artists there at Wayne State University as part of that visit in your residency. And certainly, you've already mentioned how important mentoring is to you and passing that on. Speak a little bit. Let me preface it with, we all know not every artist chooses to or is comfortable with certain kinds of engagement, but I think most artists understand when there's good musicians to receive the message, how important it is to share what you have when you're there, because those moments come and go, and you want
Mhm.
to inspire and support without dictating. And you did a marvelous job of that. Can you speak a little bit
Oh,
about that?
well, thank you. I was inspired by, the big band I heard at Wayne State, and getting to, sort of sit in with them, if you will, and uh, I've gotten, I've been so it cuts both ways. Both convicted and absolutely um, inspired by watching Danilo Perez and John Patitucci
Mm,
work with musicians and share and help them to improve. I mean, within an instant, not like
mm,
over time,
mm,
because they're there. They return. You know, the private lesson comes, the ensemble comes. You know, the next week comes, but they're watching and they're listening, and to be able to share those moments with each other, and to be vulnerable and be like, oh well, you know, I don't have all the answers, you know, to admit it, and but to also have questions that somebody else might be able to
mm.
respond to. So that it was a privilege, you know, for me to be in that situation, and to, you know, just, you know, to, I guess, like we were talking about with the big band experience, how to speak to the the drummers that were there that day, for instance, or the rhythm section, or the entire ensemble, relative to the dynamics and relative to playing what's not on the page, which
Mm.
is often the challenge, I find, for our role, the drummer in the band, to really, you know, set things up for what's coming, or to leave that space, or to play with all your power, and so that it's, you know, that, you know, the brass and woodwind, it's all met, you know, with the right intention. So yeah, it was just, it was a blast, you know. I really I had a good time being with them.
Well, it was reflected in so many ways, and again, it was a great beginning of what would be a number of different engagements. In fact, the one performance we haven't talked about at the festival that you did, um, you know, it's always great when a resident engages with our great professional musicians, be it in the jazz world or the orchestral world, because we're very proud of the musical legacy of those. And in fact, I've always, you know, growing up in town, like you talk about Motown or any of the big musical developments in Detroit, but you look on those album covers, you will see that it is often a collaboration of families of musicians. You have orchestral musicians doing what they do. You have an arranger who's from the studio scene. You have some of the jazz cats involved. And this is, you know, on a Marvin Gaye record. You know, it's like the Detroit family of musicians without those borders coming together, and the end result is something like What's Going On, that the world accepts as something really beautiful and unique. And
Yeah,
it's a question of not only bringing those things together. Marvin Gaye pops to mind because he was known for having great respect for those and letting them do what they do, not,
right.
you know, saying I need this and this, but not telling them how to produce that per se, and then letting them do what they do, and then he would put his thing on, and it was magic. And
Yeah,
your set, the Three Visitors set, was quite unique. I had never, well, I think I did hear you with Becca once before, but not in that sort of extended setting, and that was quite special. And talk a little bit about that Three Visitors set, because it was unique with
yeah.
Detroit String Quartet and whatnot.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was actually Detroit String Octet. It was awesome.
Sorry,
Thank
pardon
you.
me.
No, no, it was good. You know, my dear friend Scott Colley, great bassist and composer,
Great, Scott's
and
a great
Edward
guy.
Simon, yes, great pianist and composer. You know, we've known each other for decades and been playing together for so many years now, and but from the, you know, very beginning, we felt a kinship and friendship and understanding, and so we just continue to try and come together as a trio, and to include our other friends in the music we write for each other. So this Three Visitors project with Becca Stevens and uh, uh, Chris Potter and some other friends on this recording we've made. It was great to feature that music at the festival, you know, even before the record was released. You know, just
Mm.
really as as a maiden voyage, if you will. Even though we've been playing for so many years, it's just great to have new music born and to share it when it's kind of it's just been opened.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the gift of that, and to share it with everyone who came to the festival that day. It's very special for us, and um, you know, even just the rehearsal again, preparing for the gig was just as exciting for us as a performance. Sometimes you can slow down time a little bit because it goes by so quickly.
Yeah.
But I hope people were touched by it and enjoyed it as we did.
Well, it would to for everyone, it was again a great residency because each one of your performances throughout the festival had a different voice, there was a different texture, a different I hate to use the word mission in music, but a different trajectory, if you will, and it utilized so many different facets of musicians. It was really it was a journey, which I believe a good residency should feel like that from beginning to end. And we got through to the big band at the end, and there was this feeling like we had kind of been on a path of patrons and artists alike, a path with you. And boy, that's to me, that's what a extended presence should be in any community. And you did it times 10.
Oh well, man, thank you. Again, we were just juiced to be included, and yeah, really, thank you so much for making that happen.
Well, my pleasure. We had the luxury of a couple of spin-offs with Kurt Rosenwinkel Trio at the Late Center one night, which was really beautiful.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
John Coward's solo piano. It was just, and I have to say, those audiences, it was a new population, the generations coming out of Midtown Detroit, and they flooded the place. They really understood how important that was, and it was neat that they spun off from your residency and your engagement with them to something that was very special to hear them do, frankly.
Oh, that's great. Also, yeah, thank you again for making that happen too. Yeah.
Well, look, we only have a couple of minutes. Always a good question. A college student asked this question. For an aspiring musician, any good advice for moving forward and in this industry and in this creative environment?
Well, I mean, I know we're all concerned with doing as much as possible and having creating opportunities and accepting and opportunities but I think being heard and sharing with your friends, your bandmates, your teachers daily, with your instrument, that focus uh, will those are sort of the pebbles in the sea that send out the ripples for them, for your sound, for your expression, for who you are to reach other people. I wouldn't be so concerned with the next gig. It will happen. You will be heard, and you will have opportunities. But for now, and throughout, you never stop learning. You never stop focusing on your craft, and nurturing the gift, if you will, and listening, always listening outside of what you think is sort of what you're about, but
Mm.
widening your view, and your sense of music, uh, and the world, as
There,
as
there
you
you go.
walk that way.
That
So
that's the stuff, and there's a lot of stuff there. I could say from knowing Brian, also be an incredibly sweet and giving and generous and thoughtful human being, and you got a shot at following that path. It goes a long way. Before we wrap it up, I want to say to everyone out there, stay tuned for more Jazz Chat Lives. We do it once a month. In January, we kick it off. We'll be talking to the great Carmen Lundy. In February, we're talking to Cameron Graves in March, and we'll chat with Kyle Eastwood after that. We'll also be sharing some special Jazz Chat Lives with some of our educational folks and some of the industry folks that make up the rest of the ecosystem of the jazz scene, agents and media folks and everything in between, for all the artists out there to have a chance to ask questions of some of these leaders in our industry that keep the business lights turned on. So we'll be sharing the registration link on DetroitJazzFest.org, DetroitJazzFest.org, where you can register to be a part of Jazz Chat Live. It costs nothing, it's free. And also consider registering to be on our mailing list, which is again free, but you hear about all these things ahead of time and all the special events and things you can take advantage of. Lastly, check out the Vintage Store at DetroitJazzFest.org, where you can buy bona fide vintage articles of posters and clothing and everything in between, along with this year's version of their Angel and Jazz pin. Celebrates Gretchen Vollade every year. There'll be a new one every year. So check all that out. They make great Christmas presents last minute and otherwise. So consider jumping in on that. In the meantime, we want to sincerely thank our 2024 artist in residence, the great Brian Blade. I feel like I just want to have you do it another year. Let's see what we do in 20. But maybe give it a year break. But we will we'll have Brian back in many other ways. And Brian, please always share with us your programs and projects. We would love to have you in Detroit and around anytime we can. God bless you, my friend. Thank you.
You as well. Thank you, man.
Have a blessed Christmas and holiday season, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yes, yes. You too. You too, Chris.
Thank you.